Christian, the Spurs fan, has called 0371 722 3344. Christian, do you sympathise in any way with Antonio Conte, or did he overstep the line?
Well, I think two things. I think he's grieving. As a human being, he's lost his, friends, and he was ill in hospital. So I think that's part of the process. But also, I think it was good to have someone to actually, not bat him out, but explain what it's like at Spurs. They don't care. The board don't care. They're just trying to get an empire without actually winning anything, in my opinion.
You already knew that, though, Christian, didn't you? Did you need Antonio Conte to come out again and say the same things as Mourinho did when he left and Pochettino did when he left? I don't think we needed that just yet.
You don't really need anything when it comes out, do you? But I think maybe he needed to say it, regardless of whether he wanted to get sacked or not. He needed to say that, in his opinion. So we have to respect it, or maybe not like it, but, accept it, I suppose.
Christian, let me ask you a question. Do you think that the squad that Antonio Conte has assembled, with the help of Joe Lewis's money and Daniel Levy's support, do you think that squad should be good enough to beat a Sheffield United team who leave half their team out in the FA Cup because they're more worried about promotion than they are in progressing? Do you think the squad that Antonio Conte has been allowed to put together, spending a lot of money, as we've already mentioned, top 5 spenders in the Premier League over the last 2 windows, should that have been enough to beat a really poor AC Milan side with an 87-year-old Olivier Giroud up front?
I think that yes and no. It's all about
what's the no?
Getting the right players in. All right, the no is you need to get the right players in. You can spend all the money, but if you don't get the right players in, then how can you succeed?
So is that Daniel Levy or is that Antonio Conte?
That's Daniel Levy. I think it always has been. He doesn't want to spend and he waits till the last minute.
But he has spent. I've just told you they're top 5 spenders over the last 2 windows. So it's a little bit of a myth that Tottenham haven't spent money.
No, I'm not saying they haven't. I'm saying he doesn't get the right players. So they spend, but they leave the players that they need to the last minute, and then they'll get someone else. So they spend the money on the wrong players. That's what I think.
Well, he thought he was getting the right player, Daniel Levy, when he signed Jed Spence. Very exciting wing-back. Antonio Conte comes out in his first press conference after the signing and says, well, he's not my player. The club signed him. Absolutely killed him.
Yeah, I think that is a bit of Conte, just being stubborn. So, yeah, Jed Spence should be in the squad, because he's a good player. So that's one player that should be there. But I think as for the rest of them, I don't think the squad is good enough. I think they're not that good. And I think they need another couple of players in the right positions. But that's my opinion, right?
That they shouldn't, Christian, thanks for the call. They shouldn't need another couple of players to beat a Sheffield United team who don't really want to win the game, should they?
Sheffield United wanted to win that game.
They left half their players out. Spurs
left half out. So did Sheffield United. Unfortunately, that's football. That's what happens in football. We've seen Southampton lost to Grimsby. These games happen. That game there, we was talking off air. That game there is the one game that really has destroyed Spurs' season, in my opinion.
And the Milan game.
Well, I think if initially,
that's not a good side,
initially, if you
side.
Win this game, if you beat Sheffield United, you're playing Blackburn. Essentially, you could win that. I know Spurs should have enough to beat Blackburn as well. So then, irrelevant what happens in the Champions League, you're in the semi-final of FA Cup and you're in the top 4. That's looking a half successful season. Okay, disappointment in the Champions League. The game that derailed Spurs' season is the Sheffield United one, and he probably won't take much responsibility for that because he was at home recovering from his illness, and it is true. And Christian, the caller, said that he was grieving. He has lost a lot of his close friends, so he's had a few personal issues. But he's back in the dugout now. He's back at Spurs, and that for me yesterday, and I will speak to another Spurs supporter, I think it was premeditated. And when I say that, a lot of his interviews are very paused. They're very he thinks a lot, but this, he just reeled it off. So I think he was waiting for a moment to attack the football club.
Yeah, I agree. And I think if it wasn't yesterday, it would have been maybe the first game back after the international break. It could have been the week before. I think you're absolutely right. One of the things that I said on air, we were talking about this in the build-up to Game Day Live with Adrian Darren, and Leanne Sanderson was strong on this as well. Antonio Conte, for me, is the archetypal checkbook manager. He's not someone who improves players. You know, he wants to buy teams and buy his way to success. In fact, if you look at that Tottenham squad, there's more players who've gone backwards under Antonio Conte than have improved. Son is the prime example. But even someone like Yves Bissouma, you know, Brighton were reluctant to let him go in the summer.
Exciting
because
signing.
he'd been such a good player for them. I thought he'd be one of the signings of the season. Yep. Conte has got nothing out of Yves Bissouma. Let's bring in Morris, the Spurs fan. Morris, where do you stand on this?
Hi guys. Right, I listened to this Conte thing, right? And yeah, look, the club's 90% responsible, right? But let's not forget they've delivered us with an amazing stadium, right? But now we've got to think about what they're going to do, invest in the club. First and foremost, has Conte actually come out and told anyone what players he actually wanted, and did Tottenham turn around and say, no, we're not buying them because we can't afford them, right? Let's take Sonny, right? He could have got in any team last year, anywhere. All the top sides in the world, he is a shadow of the player because of the system he's playing.
Agreed.
And I cannot work out why Conte has done his nut yesterday when he should have been doing it after the AC Milan game. That was even worse than what we saw yesterday. It was unlucky with a poor decision on a penalty. My argument with Conte is that he's a manager, right? He's a one-track pony when it comes to his systems, right? Now, like you mentioned before, Bissouma, he was a baller last year at Brighton. We brought him. What did he do? The first thing we saw Bissouma do was to be stuck in the middle and not drive forward, right? If this system doesn't suit the players, this manager should be able and should be good enough to change the system to suit the players. A prime example was Lampard. When he had Chelsea, they were doing nothing. He left, in come Tuchel. The same players, he put them on the front foot, and next thing you know, they've gone flying and they've won the Champions League and were very successful under him. This man is purely responsible, right? He is not working in the best interests of this club, right? Listen to this rubbish he comes out with. We have to understand situations at certain moments. Yeah, that's all great. That's all fantastic. But we're always on the back foot. When we play at home, we look like we're the away team all the time, right? If we play on the front foot, you've got two of the best players in the world playing for Tottenham up front, and they look a shadow of apart from Harry Kane, who's still scoring goals. Sonny, he looks totally lost. He looks like it's the first time he's ever put a pair of football boots on. Right? This is purely down to him. What did he buy Richarlison for? Where is he actually playing in? Because we don't know where he's playing in. Right? Basuma, right? You know, he goes on about he has got these players, they ain't got it. Kulusevski, he's getting to any side, right? Bentancur, I know they've been injured. I'm really, it is frustrating for him. I get it, right? But if you haven't got the personnel which you want to play the system, which I think is drab, and all Tottenham fans would agree this is absolute rubbish and boring like hell to watch when you're actually in the stadium, right? Then why aren't you playing to the strengths of this team? Right? Let's go forward with the ball. That AC Milan was an absolute disgrace to watch our team, right, just sit there and pass the ball around and let's wait for the opportunities in the particular moments and all this rubbish he's coming out with. I want him to go. You know, he hasn't lived up to his expectations of Tottenham. He can throw as much mud and as much rubbish he wants to throw at the ball, right? The truth is he's not good enough for Tottenham. He's been found out, right? You know, and I don't blame Levy so much like everybody else. You know, you can't go out and start spending £200 million on players, right? We all know what Conte's all about, yeah? He's a winner. But, you know, sometimes you've got to look at your own style and you've got to say to yourself, my style's not working here. Let me talk with these players. Let me work out what is their best form of attack and best way of winning games. And that's to go forward. Under Pochettino, we was flying, winning the ball quick. We was all chasing it down. We got the ball back quick. You know, Pochettino, you know, he did say that we needed 5 or 6 new players, right? And he was 100% right. To bring him back, we could be in the same situation. But at this precise moment, he has to go. Let him have his international break. Let him go to Italy. I know he's had personal problems, which I'm very sorry. It's a tragedy. I know that. But let's not bring him back. Let's just let him go now. Right, move on, right, and let's see how someone else can deal with this team and say, right, we're going on the front foot. You know, we might need 3 or 4 players, right? But 8 of these players are not that bad. He's actually made them look worse. Made it actually worse.
Morris, I agree.
Yeah.
One quick question, because I don't know what's more passionate, your rant or Conte's yesterday. Give me one name. If Conte does go, and listen, he will go, whether it's tomorrow, whether it's during the international break, or if it's at the end of the season, this is coming to an end. Who do you want to be the new Spurs manager? Give me one name.
In all fairness, I think the man who would absolutely jump at the bit at Tottenham and absolutely get them playing at the front foot would be Tuchel, right? And we can go from there. I mean, if we're looking for a manager who's working on small budgets, right? Well, I mean, it's very difficult to farm unless you want to take a punt on Brendan Rodgers.
It's not a small budget. Morris, thanks for the call. It isn't a small budget. And I'm going to defend Daniel Levy a bit here, because you said Daniel Levy, Joe Lewis, Darren Ambrose, you said get out of our club, sell the football club. You've got the best stadium, arguably, in Europe. They have spent money on the team. Yep. The fans wanted an elite manager. They tried it with Jose Mourinho. He's tried it with Antonio Conte. I don't think Daniel Levy necessarily deserves all the stick that he's going to get. And I'm going to chuck this out there, and I know this is going to be seen as quite inflammatory also, but you have to remember, Tottenham, when it comes to, if they're at the table for a player, okay, and if the big 6 clubs are all competing for the same player, they're not going to go to Tottenham. We saw that with Luis Diaz when Liverpool snuck in at the last minute. If you've got a choice out of Arsenal, Chelsea, City, United, Liverpool, or Spurs are 6th choice.
Because
so
Spurs
there is a
don't
ceiling.
win any trophies.
Exactly. But they haven't
And
won
why
any.
is that?
They've won. I'm 40 years of age. They've not won any trophies for the last 4 decades. That's not Daniel Levy's
Well,
fault.
won the FA Cup.
Once.
91.
Yeah, exactly. I was
Won
9.
the League Cup.
I was
2008.
9. Honestly.
So that's factually incorrect.
I do think some Tottenham fans have delusions of grandeur, and I know I'm probably going to get stick for that.